Peeps.
Before we tear a new hole into Netflix about their inability to commit to their intellectual properties, let's just give them a pat on the back for the one thing they do great, and that is take on a bunch of original shows and give people a chance. We're getting big budget network shows and stuff like across all these different online platforms, like on the regular now, you know, Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO Max, and we honestly wouldn't have gotten any of those series on TV if the landscape of TV and media entertainment was about the same as it has been for like the last 60 plus years, with the mega networks dominating and funding practically all on-air TV shows, which is to say it's not that much different, but they still have all their hands all over it. But it is a little bit different. So, I will say that Netflix making its own way into the landscape has definitely changed things, and it definitely opened the door for Amazon to do the same for their Prime Video streaming service. But I mean, again, we got to think about all the other stuff that goes into network TV stuff. We don't need to think about that right now. We're talking about Netflix and what I deem is a Netflix curse. And so what the Netflix curse is, in short, which I'm pretty sure you guys already know what I'm about to say, is having a great idea, a pretty good season one. Sometimes it could be hotly debated between people between being total trash and really good, but for the most part, decent season ones with great cinematography, and no season two, no confirmation of a season two, anything like that. As of at least me writing the script I'm reading off of, which is about 2 months old, there's about 9 dramas, 14 comedies, and 25 foreign language features that all have one season and have been on the pending list for season 2. And again, these are just the ones that I have counted with the single season. Imagine all the other shows that are out there that have 2 or 3 seasons and are probably not going to get any sort of finality or conclusion to their series. So yeah, we know that a lot of these shows aren't really due for a comeback, but that doesn't change the fact that there are still a lot of people who enjoy some of these shows. So let's think about some of the great Netflix originals that didn't get more seasons or didn't get any finality. Marco Polo is a big one that comes to mind. Did I finish it? Nope. But everyone around me did, and they fucking loved it. Another show, Norseman. I do believe this one has 3 seasons, but the 3rd season seems to be more of a reboot, and it doesn't look like they're making any progress on any new season for that. And honestly, that show is amazing. It's a historical drama, or not historical drama, what am I saying? It's a historical comedy. There's some drama, but but in just those 3 examples, right? We have a historical fantasy drama, a comedy, a historical fiction comedy, and a martial arts supernatural fighting anime. Those are 3 completely different shows with no decisive ending, still kind of pending release, and I mean, look at this. We could even take a look at the bizarre and sad saga of the Marvel universe that was being built on Netflix. Now, we can say that it's not entirely Netflix's fault, right? They actually did have the rights to produce one final season for each of the characters, but we do know that Netflix decided to decline on most of these, and we were left with what we had. 2 seasons of The Punisher, Jessica Jones. I think, was it 2 seasons of Daredevil, 3 seasons maybe? I think it's only 2 seasons. So we have 2 seasons of Punisher, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, and single seasons for Iron Fist, Luke Cage, and The Defenders. So, we know Punisher, Daredevil, Jessica Jones were the more popular of the shows, but I mean, it just doesn't really help that Netflix kind of blundered on this one, So I'm kind of hoping the MCU can pick up these great characters and somehow work them into the movies. But yeah, Netflix definitely, they definitely messed up by not at least having some sort of finality for these characters when they had the chance to do it. I feel like it left a really sour taste in a lot of people's mouths who were really looking forward to another season of The Punisher or another season of Daredevil. And, I think one reason why we are stuck with a little bit of this Netflix curse is not just obviously because big money things and the decisions that Netflix makes, but it's because a lot of these shows are set up to look like they'll have a follow-up because the showrunners themselves don't know, or they want to engage the audience enough for them to clamor for a follow-up season, which 100% makes sense. Why wouldn't you write a property that you love, your story, etc., and want it to continue? That's very rare especially for a show that someone thinks we're gonna finish it all in one season. I don't know how contract negotiations go for Netflix originals, but I can imagine that they leave the second season or renewal part kind of open-ended, you know. It's always, I feel like it's always something that doesn't really get negotiated right on spot, you know. Of course there are some shows that do get that, but for the most part I do think that Netflix originals are just kind of like, okay, we'll just throw it out there and see how it does, you know. But me actually going to the point with this, I just wish that shows came out with one season, just completely finished whatever story arc it was, whatever it is they set out to finish out, you know. I dislike a story arc ending off on an abrupt note, or a story that feels like it wraps up too quickly for the sake of runtime. There are plenty of shows that can complete a story arc and set up a new season, all without leaving too heavy of a cliffhanger for the story itself. Let's take a look. This is just off the top of my head at the most recent adaptation. Actually, I think the only adaptation of a Filipino comic book series called Trece. They had an animated show on there, and it was promoted in both languages, in both Tagalog, the native language of the actual source material, and in English. And I will say the English dub was thousands times better. And another thing that I will say is that the story wrapped up too quickly. It just kind of started running over itself towards the end. And I rewatched it 3 times. You know, the first 2 times I enjoyed it. The third time, the plot holes and the speed ups and stuff were just a little too much, you know. And I felt that the pacing, especially for the last 2-ish, 3-ish episodes, could have been spread out. You know, the entire arc that happens throughout the first season, I feel like it could have been in 2 seasons. They literally could have just done a half arc, like maybe an introductory arc for season 1, you know. And by half arc, I don't actually mean, you know, finishing just half a fucking story, right? There's technically like 2 pretty big story arcs in the show, and I honestly believe that they could have just gone with the whole finale portion of the first season, that whole plot thread line that literally could have been done in a season 2, much more tastefully, and just a lot stronger, you know. It'd give more time for people to be invested in the lore, for backstories to be brought up that really bring up just the whole emotional impact that happens at the end of the first season. Not gonna spoil it, you know. There's my spoiler-free summary of Trece, or not summary, but, you know, thoughts on Trece. But yeah, that's kind of the Netflix curse, guys. You know, just circling back to that point, we get a season or 2 of something great, and then we hear nothing from it again. I don't know any possible solutions for this. You know, normally when people come up with rants and stuff, they got solutions for all these things, this and that, and I can't suggest one because I don't know what goes on behind Netflix's closed doors, behind those meetings. But I mean, we had memes about Netflix for years about how willing they were to just fucking pick up a show and run with it. And they're still doing that. You know, we get garbage like the Hype House show, and a bunch of other reality TV show spin-off documentary type things that I don't even care for or even know the name of, because I really don't even want to give a fuck enough to look at it. I just know that they're happening, and it pisses me off a little bit that, you know, we got a lot of good shows out there that just don't have follow-ups. I do believe that Altered Carbon is actually another one of those shows that doesn't have a follow-up, and I remember everyone having like a huge freaking boner over that show for like, I don't know, like 2-3 years plus after that first/second season finished. And then everyone was getting everyone was getting freaked out by that promo trailer that they put out about people being able to implant their brains into things. It was, you know, it was just a promo for the next season and the story of the, you know, the show itself. But I remember there was a whole uproar on Twitter about people thinking that the promotional thing was an actual commercial, and people were actually trying to rip on rich people and etc for like, why do you want to be immortal, etc. You know, that's just the short summary of it, right? And you know, when you have something like that can create phenomenon like that or controversy like that across the internet, bring some buzz, like why would you dump that, you know? it doesn't make any sense to me. You know, Netflix capitalized on Stranger Things, right? So I thought they would have capitalized even harder on Daredevil and The Punisher. They did not, you know. You got one more season to milk the money and you didn't milk it. Like, come on, everyone was expecting them to milk the money, and everyone was going to be fine with them milking the money because no one knew if Marvel would pick up those shows again, right? So yeah, circling back to what we could do solution-wise. I've already talked about it kind of in this video. Yeah, but okay, wait, cut that out. All right, 3, 2, 1. But you know, this video isn't really complete unless we do talk about some solution stuff. So let's do it. Now, in my opinion, we got like 2 solutions here, maybe. Obviously there's or 3 solutions. Obviously there's probably way more, but this is the most I can come up with in my head, right? Solution 1 is, we already talked about this in the video. It's kind of dependent on knowing how these meetings generally go, but I can assume that these executives are both trying to, you know, leave some sort of open-endedness when it comes to multiple seasons, dedicated series, things like that. And it makes complete sense because some series can catch wildfire and become a sensation across the world, you know? But being upfront about how many seasons they'd be willing to go for is a big one. I feel like this gives writers and creators some sort of space to work with, or to adapt or readapt the story that they're trying to adapt, you know? It's definitely not the most ideal because, like I said, this kind of relies on knowing how most of these Netflix originals meetings go, and honestly how much a budget you need for a multiple season work. You know, not every show that is going to be 2-3 seasons or whatever long is going to cost the same. You know, a historical fiction show is definitely not going to cost the same as a show set in the modern day, which is probably why reality and documentary are so much easier to film. You don't need any props or anything like that, but sci-fi, superhero stuff, like action things, you need big budgets for those. So I totally understand how solution 1 may not be the most prudent thing business wise for Netflix, but I do feel like solution 1 is obviously a lot more lenient towards the creators themselves. You know, I feel like if the creators are in a great position to write what they want to write and are given, you know, actual time frames and things like that to fit their work into, it's probably going to come out a lot more cohesive, a lot less rushed and all that. Solution 2, the most simple yet hardest to do, and I think this one is just being stricter with the shows that they decide to take on. And this one is a doozy because it's kind of hard to think of what a standard safe bet is when it comes to shows, you know? I mean, nowadays you could probably say a reality TV show or a buddy comedy sitcom, but Netflix originals generally contain a lot of the stuff that we wouldn't get on TV. I mean, a lot of them nowadays do get the stuff that we would get on TV, but hey, back then it wasn't that exact same. I do feel like a lot of streaming shows, are allowed to be a bit bolder, you know, go a little more out of balance with it, you know. They don't have to make it palpable for TV. They don't have to throw in sex appeal just because a big network told them to. And yeah, you know, I think Netflix being stricter with these series they greenlight might damage this gung-ho way of operating that they have, of just picking up whatever and trying to run with it. But I mean, in the long run, you're gonna get a lot more consistent shows, and hopefully consistent shows with consistent quality and, you know, expected seasons, etc. bring in a lot more people, you know, maintain the consumer base. Solution 3, a solution that's a lot easier said than done. We all know that multiple seasons for a show is extremely expensive. You know, that probably astronomical amount of money would be required to make all these projects run for 3 or more seasons. Could feed a whole city and shit, maybe even a country, depending where you are in the world. But this is kind of my preferred solution, you know, to the whole problem, because it doesn't really require Netflix to be stricter or do anything different aside from spend more money. But, you know, it's easy for someone like me to say all this. You know, I'm not in a position myself in power, and I don't know, you know, I don't know what all that inner working stuff. Solution 3 is a lot easier said than done, and just to put simply, it's just to give every show the seasons that they need to run. You know, if a showrunner says, I think this goes for 3, and Netflix likes the show, then they should say, yes, it will go for 3. You know what I mean? It's definitely the most expensive option, and it's also, you know, the riskiest for Netflix, because who's to say that show is going to be a hit? But I mean, for me, this is just the most satisfying one, because even when there are mediocre shows that come out like Jupiter's Legacy, there are some bright spots in it, and it still makes fans. You know, there are people who are online right now probably commenting on some forum or tweeting on Twitter right now asking about where Jupiter's Legacy Season 2 is coming. And there's people like me who saw Jupiter's Legacy, was like, this is very mid, read the comics and was like, damn, that was pretty fucking good. Season 2 might be okay. You know, there's a lot of things like that. And I don't know, I feel like if you're attempting to adapt a story of a book, whatever it is, you shouldn't just stop at one thing. You shouldn't just stop at one part of the book. Just do the whole thing if you can. But again, that's not up to me, and money stuff, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, I am a fan of Netflix, maybe. Of their original programming, hell yeah. I've been able to watch worlds that I previously thought would never make it to the TV screen, and I am immensely grateful for that. You know, Stranger Things, by the way, guys, had been passed up on TV studios for about almost a whole decade before Netflix took it on. So if Stranger Things is one of your favorite shows, you have Netflix to thank for having the balls to fund it. However, that doesn't change the fact that a lot of Netflix originals are absolutely cursed, doomed to die and fade away after just one promising season, or after 2 really, really great seasons and a cliffhanger ending, etc. You know what I mean? I hope that a lot of these one-off shows can return someday, whether that be in a complete reboot or continuation a la the Living Dead TV show. But if you have a Netflix original favorite that won't be getting another season, let me know what it is down below. Maybe I missed it. You know, this video is very general, very glossy, very ranty. I'm sure if we can all run these numbers up for the shows that we like and continue to provide input, feedback, reviews on them consistently, we'll hopefully be able to enjoy them once again, or maybe at least get Amazon to pick it up, because Amazon's Prime Video streaming service is looking to eat up properties that need to be continued. So unfortunately, if you don't like Amazon, well, some of your favorite shows might end up on there. But that's all I gotta say for today, y'all. I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of ranty thing, and I'll see you guys next time, man. P2 out. Peace.
P2 Peeps.